Welcome to the Real Crime Diary Daily Dose of Crime. I'm Sean Dupree, and today we're diving into a story that's shaking the fashion world to its core. Imagine a world where the bright lights of the runway mask a dark underbelly of exploitation and abuse. That's exactly what we're uncovering in today's episode. Mike Jeffries, the former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, has been arrested on shocking charges of sex trafficking. This isn't just another celebrity scandal, it's a tale of power gone wrong, of young dreams twisted into nightmares, and a secret world hidden behind one of America's most recognizable brands. How did a man who once ruled the teen fashion industry end up facing life in prison? And what does this mean for the countless young models who dreamed of making it big? Buckle up, crime enthusiasts. This is one story you won't want to miss. In a shocking turn of events, Michael Jeffries, the former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, has been arrested and charged with sex trafficking. But he's not alone in this scandal. Two of his associates, Matthew Smith and James Jacobson, are also facing charges in what prosecutors are calling a secretive international sex trafficking scheme. The allegations are staggering. This operation reportedly spanned years, cost millions of dollars, and involved dozens of victims. Jeffries and his co-defendants are accused of transporting young, aspiring male models to events in New York and around the world, where they were coerced into having sex. The charges against them are severe. They're facing counts of sex trafficking and engaging in interstate prostitution. If convicted on the sex trafficking charge alone, each defendant could be looking at a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years with the possibility of life imprisonment. The scale of this alleged operation is truly mind-boggling. It's not just the duration and the number of victims involved, but also the intricate network that was reportedly put in place to facilitate these crimes. The indictment suggests that millions were spent to maintain secrecy and support the infrastructure of this operation. Now, let's dive into the disturbing details of this alleged operation. According to prosecutors, Jeffries and his associates ran a sophisticated scheme targeting young, aspiring male models. They would lure these men with promises of career advancement and modeling opportunities with Abercrombie & Fitch. The operation reportedly involved lavish events held in luxurious locations around the world, including New York City, the Hamptons, and exotic destinations like St. Bart's and Morocco. These weren't just parties, they were carefully orchestrated traps. At these events, victims were allegedly plied with drugs and alcohol, making them more vulnerable to coercion. The men were led to believe that participating in sexual activities was a necessary step to further their modeling careers. Perhaps most chilling is the involvement of a so-called secret staff. These individuals were reportedly tasked with maintaining the operation's secrecy. They would confiscate phones, have victims sign non-disclosure agreements, and ensure that what happened at these events stayed hidden. The level of manipulation described is staggering. Victims were allegedly told that refusing to comply with demands would hurt their careers. In some cases, when consent couldn't be obtained, Jeffries and his partner allegedly resorted to forceful and violent sexual contact. This operation wasn't just exploitative, it was expensive. Millions of dollars were reportedly spent to maintain this secret world of abuse and coercion, all while Jeffries was at the helm of one of America's most recognizable clothing brands. The legal wheels are already turning in this shocking case. Jeffries and Smith made their first appearance in federal court in West Palm Beach, where they were informed of the charges against them. In a move that speaks volumes about the gravity of these allegations, the judge set Jeffries' bond at a staggering $10 million. This isn't just pocket change, even for a former CEO. The bond is secured by a New York property Jeffries owns with his wife. But here's where it gets interesting. While Jeffries will be under house arrest in his Palm Beach property, wearing a GPS monitor and restricted to travel only in South Florida and eastern New York, his associate Smith wasn't so lucky. The judge ordered Smith to remain in custody, citing the particularly acute flight risk due to his dual citizenship in the US and UK. Now, you might be wondering about the potential consequences if they're found guilty. Well, brace yourselves. If convicted on the sex trafficking charges, Jeffries and his co-defendants are looking at a mandatory minimum of 15 years behind bars, with the possibility of life imprisonment. The interstate prostitution charges aren't much better, carrying a maximum sentence of 20 years. Abercrombie & Fitch, meanwhile, is desperately trying to distance itself from its former CEO. They've stated they're appalled and disgusted by the allegations, even hiring a law firm to conduct an independent investigation. Jeffries' attorney, on the other hand, is playing it close to the chest, stating they'll respond to the allegations in the courthouse, not the media. The 16-count indictment against Mike Jeffries and his associates paints a disturbing picture of a global operation that spanned far beyond the glossy pages of Abercrombie & Fitch catalogs. According to prosecutors, this wasn't just a case of local misconduct, but a sophisticated scheme that reached across continents. The alleged crimes took place not only in New York City and the Hamptons, but also in luxurious hotels around the world. From the streets of London to the beaches of St. Bart's, and through cities like Paris, Rome, and even as far as Morocco, the tentacles of this operation seemed to know no bounds. What's particularly chilling about this case is the alleged intentional targeting of heterosexual men. Many of these victims were reportedly former Abercrombie models or aspiring ones, drawn in by the promise of career advancement in the cutthroat world of fashion. The indictment describes a web of deception used to lure these young men. They were allegedly tricked into believing they were meeting Jeffries and his partner for legitimate modeling opportunities with Abercrombie. Instead, prosecutors claim they found themselves in situations where they were coerced into sexual activity, often under the influence of drugs and alcohol. This case serves as a stark reminder of how power and influence can be weaponized, turning dreams of stardom into nightmares of exploitation. The victims in this case, many of whom were as young as 19, found themselves caught in a web of exploitation that preyed on their dreams and vulnerabilities. These aspiring models, hoping to make it big in the cutthroat world of fashion, instead became pawns in an alleged scheme of sexual coercion and manipulation. Prosecutors believe that dozens of young men fell victim to this operation, lured by the promise of career advancement and modeling opportunities with a major brand. The trauma inflicted on these individuals cannot be understated. Many were reportedly subjected to violent sexual contact when they couldn't or wouldn't comply with the demands placed upon them. The bravery of those who have come forward cannot be overstated. Their testimonies have been crucial in bringing these allegations to light and pushing for justice. The U.S. Attorney has encouraged any other potential victims to reach out to the FBI, emphasizing that prosecutions like this rely heavily on victims willing to share their experiences. But the legal battles don't end with the criminal charges. A class action lawsuit filed by former model David Bradbury in Manhattan federal court alleges that Abercrombie & Fitch was complicit in Jeffries' behavior. The suit claims that company officers were aware of the misconduct and even paid settlements to accusers. This civil action seeks to hold the company accountable for what the plaintiffs describe as facilitating and benefiting from Jeffries' alleged sex trafficking operation. Michael Jeffries' journey with Abercrombie & Fitch is a tale of remarkable success followed by a stunning downfall. In 1992, Jeffries took the reins of a struggling company known for sporting goods and outdoor wear. Under his leadership, Abercrombie underwent a dramatic transformation, becoming a powerhouse in teen apparel. Jeffries' vision was clear: create a brand that exuded youth, sex appeal, and exclusivity. He introduced the infamous shirtless models, cologne-drenched stores, and provocative marketing that became Abercrombie's signature. The strategy paid off, catapulting the company to massive success and making Jeffries one of the highest-paid CEOs in America. However, Jeffries' tenure was not without controversy. The company faced criticism for its lack of diversity, offensive slogans on clothing, and Jeffries' own comments about who should wear the brand. There were also allegations of discriminatory hiring practices and a bizarre corporate culture, including strict appearance guidelines for staff on the company jet. As times changed, Abercrombie's hypersexualized image began to lose its appeal. Sales declined, and pressure mounted on Jeffries. In 2014, after 22 years at the helm, he abruptly retired at the age of 70. It seemed Jeffries had lost touch with the evolving tastes of his target audience, marking the end of an era for both him and the brand he had built. As we wrap up today's episode, it's impossible not to reflect on the broader implications of the Mike Jeffries case. This shocking story serves as a stark reminder of how power can be abused, especially in industries like fashion where dreams and ambitions are currency. The allegations against Jeffries, if proven true, reveal a dark underbelly of an industry that often prides itself on glamour and aspiration. It forces us to question the systems that allow such abuse to persist and the responsibility of corporations to protect those under their influence. What other stories of exploitation might be hiding behind the glossy facade of the fashion world? How can we ensure that young, aspiring models are protected from predators masquerading as mentors? These are questions we must grapple with as a society. I encourage you to share your thoughts on this case and its implications. And if you want to stay informed on more true crime stories that challenge our perceptions, be sure to subscribe to The Real Crime Diary. Until next time, stay vigilant and stay safe. Hey listeners, welcome back to The Real Crime Diary. I'm your host, Sean Dupree. If you tuned in last time, we had a deep dive into the disturbing history of power abuse across different eras, looking at the connection between dominance, control, and how it plays out even today. We touched on scandals from the past and compared them with some modern-day examples, showing how these patterns of abuse, unfortunately, persist. One of the most insightful tools we've explored to understand this is my book, Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's not just a historical account, but an interdisciplinary approach to understanding why this keeps happening. We draw from history, philosophy, and modern case studies to explain how figures like Dominique Pellico, Harvey Weinstein, and others have exploited their positions of power for their own gain, often protected by the very systems meant to stop them. Recap of last interaction. In our last live stream, we discussed how libertinism, philosophically introduced by figures like Marquis de Sade, has shaped the way power and pleasure have been entangled throughout history. This concept ties directly into how figures like Weinstein operated, as we saw parallels between de Sade's fictional characters and the way powerful men manipulated their victims in real life. You guys had some amazing comments, asking how societal structures have allowed these behaviors to go unchecked for so long. It's a crucial question, and one that the book addresses deeply. Why this book is valuable. Now, what's powerful about Power, Pleasure, and Pain is its ability to break down these historical patterns and link them to the present. You're not just reading about ancient Rome or Enlightenment philosophy, you're seeing how these ideologies are alive today. The book uncovers how sexual violence and control have been systematically woven into the fabric of societies from ancient times right up to the modern era. It's about understanding not just the individual predators, but the systems that protect them, whether it's in royal courts, religious institutions, or today's corporate and entertainment worlds. Through these historical lenses, we also explore movements like #MeToo that are beginning to dismantle these structures. The fight for justice is far from over, but as the book demonstrates, we are in the midst of a cultural shift where legal reforms are finally addressing these long-standing issues. It's more than a history lesson. It's a guide to understanding and supporting change today. What's next? If you want to dive deeper, I suggest picking up Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's available now, and trust me, it will change the way you think about power, pleasure, and control. We've even got some exclusive content coming up on the channel where we'll be exploring the book's case studies in even more detail, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to The Real Crime Diary so you don't miss any updates. Let's keep this conversation going, because understanding the past is key to changing the future.